I made mention of this on Twitter the other day because I want people to see like why Black people in particular need to be for school choice. Many of the people on that side always claim that our students are being targeted in the public school system for discipline, grades, etc., systemic racism, what have you, but then they'll also come back and say, but we need to give it more funding. And I'm like, well, why are we going to fund this systemic racism that you guys are talking about? Why not put these children in other schools where they need to be, such as schools like ours, where we have a free boarding school. We provide boarding for these students. They do multiple activities during the week, etc., field trips or what have you, and it's all free to their parents. And we operate off no government funding, only donations from people just around the country and people just helping us, and we're able to help all these students every single day, 3 meals a day, etc. So where do you stand on school choice, and why should Black people stand behind school choice? Because I think that's something that we need to have, because there are Black people that are opening their own schools, that are trying to get away from the public school system because of what's happening in the school systems, but then they'll go back and tell us that we shouldn't support, other Black people opening up schools. We should want funding to go to the public schools, and there are public school teachers who want to work, in other schools, but we don't have the funding to pay them to come and work at our schools. So where do you stand on school choice and trying to get teachers out of the public school system who don't want to be there?
Well, I appreciate that question, and thanks for what you're doing. I think the little man wants to make some comments. But listen, school choice, I think I've been a pro-school choice governor. I've also been a very strong advocate of our public K-12 schools in the state. A lot of my friends on the K-12 side, quite honestly, made the argument for a long time, why are you going to take funds from us and give it to private schools or education scholarships and other things when we're not fully funded. So we have fully funded K-12 formula. There was 1 year we weren't able to do that during COVID when the recession hit, but every year since then, including this year, we've fully funded K-12. We've done teacher pay raise like I promised when I was campaigning in 2018. We fulfilled the second part of that promise this year. We are funding K-12 education right now as much as we ever had. So I don't think people can use the argument of, why are we going to take money from K-12 and give it to school choice. I mean, our state has been on the forefront, I think, of the charter school movement. I've been very supportive of that and continue to be, and I think there's more that we can gain from that. We've done school choice bills when you think about special needs scholarships, and there's been advocacy to do more. I think the problem is there's concern in rural parts of our state that have really good K-12 systems, where the school systems are the largest employer, and politically that's been a very high bar to get over. But I do think in the future, what my focus would be is trying to figure out areas where, it would make sense to do some school choice, and I'm open to doing that. It's been a tough hurdle legislatively. But this is the thing I think African Americans need to decide. When you make your choice for governor, who's going to have an open mind on those issues and fight for your kids? Is it going to be me, or is it going to be Stacey Abrams? Because I can assure you, she's never going to be open to any school choice. Because the National Teachers Union, an organization that's not even from here, gave her $1 million along with 2 other national unions. And so they're going to control whatever she does. And I think, with me as your governor, I've had a great relationship with education. I've been a pro-education governor, and I'll continue to be open-minded and are glad to have people at the table to figure out, look, when we have failing schools, or when people are not getting what they need out of their kids, or when you have a local school board system, like we saw this year, that when 95% of our systems in the state were open, and they elected not to because of pandemic politics, people are tired of that. When people can't go to work because their kids are not in school, because you got politicians, making those kind of decisions. I tell people all the time, we were following the data and the science, and that's what everybody's telling us to, follow the data and the science. And I tell people all the time, so were some of those other people on the other side. They were following the science, the political science. The problem is the winds are blowing different than they were in 2020. People have woken up, they're seeing the downside of us not having our kids in the classroom in some states, and they're seeing the downsides of people's economies not being open. And that's what I want to continue to fight for in the future.
Before we got another question before Miles gets the mic over there. I do want to ask you constitutional carry. Can you explain, the attack ads say you want to put guns in the hands of criminals. Can you explain constitutional carry?
Yeah, well, you know, old Dennis that's in that ad, the former law enforcement officer that worked as a deputy in Florida in the 90s, by the way, has no idea what's going on in Georgia. And if I could ever see him, I would explain to him, look, the criminals already have the guns. You know, if you don't think they don't, you know, you're kidding yourself. And all we're trying to do is give law-abiding citizens the ability to protect themselves if they choose to do that, and give them what they have is their Second Amendment rights. And that's simply all we're doing. You know, Stacey Abrams, quite honestly, is having to lie about my record because she has a bad record herself or no record at all. And so honestly, the things she's saying, like in one of those ads that said there's no background checks, that's absolutely not true. The law's the same in our state for you to legally carry a gun now as it was before, except you just don't have to get a permit from the local government. Look, I got a guy working for me right now that when he turned 21, he made the legal application to get a concealed carry permit, and it took, I don't even think he's gotten it yet, but I know at one point it was 14 or 15 months he was waiting for that. So a citizen that wants to follow the law that's prohibited from carrying when the criminals are, can't do that because of a piece of paper from the government when they meet the background check and they don't violate any of the other legal prohibitions of carrying. Why are we not going to allow them to do that? I mean, that's just where I am. You know, I tell people all the time, they ask me about that question, they're just like, I want to understand that. And I said, well, do you remember during civil unrest when we had literally every night had 3,000 people demonstrating on the streets of Atlanta? And we were working with the organizers to make sure that they could peacefully do that. You know, during that time, you also had black males that were walking with that crowd holding AR-15s. And that's their legal right to do that. And did we have any problems? No, we did not. Because we communicated, we were honest with people, we told them what the ground rules were. But you know, there's probably also a lot of people that didn't want somebody to know they were carrying a weapon to protect themselves. And they did it legally and peacefully. And this whole nonsense about Music Midtown and other things is ridiculous. You know, that was a financial decision that they made. Stacey Abrams overplayed that because she doesn't understand where people are, because she supports defunding the police. She wants to end cash bail and a lot of other things, and so we're chasing the same bad people night after night. Well, I can tell you, our law enforcement, many of them which happen to be African American, they're tired of doing that. They're putting their lives on the line every single day. And I know that, because I've been to almost every single funeral for a fallen law enforcement officer that died in line of duty in this state. And if I haven't, our First Lady has. And so we know how hard it is out there. But we also know that people are fed up. You know, when you have people just walking through your neighborhood and breaking in your car every week, when people are getting shot, jogging down the sidewalk in the city of Atlanta, or pregnant women are getting stabbed on a walking trail, I mean, people have had enough. And all we're doing, if they want to, is give them the ability to be able to do that. And this whole nonsense about Music Midtown, her overplaying that, we just announced with the mayor of Atlanta, we're getting the college football championship game back. First state in the country to get it twice. First city in the country to get it twice. Nobody was worried about that issue. And 20 plus other states, I think it's 23 or 24 other states have constitutional carry. And so again, we're just giving people the right to protect and defend themselves as they want to. Because the criminals already have the guns. And I'm going to continue to support that.
By the way,